For the Love of Rugby, brought to you by Blackheart. For those who love to ruck, maul and never back down.
Indeed. What is this episode about? Well, it's basically based on your questions and your comments. So we, of course, do our preview, we do our review, and Wednesday is a perfect slot to kind of be a little bit more question-answer based and break up the week, of course, because we have our in-depth review, myself and Coley, and we have our in-depth preview with myself and Ant that comes out on a Friday. So there we have it. So always get your questions in. And Coley, how on earth do they get in touch with us to send their questions? Please tell them.
Well, Ben, there are just so many ways of getting in touch. You can use @LoveOfRugby on socials. You can use the Google form in the episode description or the podcast description down below. And you can just leave a comment on YouTube saying what a great quiz it was. Best quiz you've ever seen. Or something along those lines. Yeah,
something along those lines. And if you're watching on YouTube, you might notice that the studio looks a little bit different to usual. That is because we're in the Rugbyverse, Coley, aren't we?
We are. We're virtual. We're AI generated. Are we DeepSeek? Are we ChatGPT? Are we something like that? Is that what they're called?
Yeah, what's the new one? But the
Chinese one, made for £6.
Made for £6? Yeah. Right, Coley, let's dive straight into these YouTube comments. What we got?
Right, Ben. Well, our next question/comment comes from the RPMD on YouTube. And he says, they say, I generally think you two are too close to England to analyse it properly. You know every player there and can't get the distance from it to be objective. England were poor. They were lucky to get the 2 tries in the second half. And Ireland should have scored more tries in the first half based on how much time they spent in the 22 with penalty advantage.
Oh, what a load of bollocks. You can't win, mate. Like, you cannot win because in the autumn, like, people are saying, oh, you're too negative. Like, you know, you're too critical of England. Like, you're not giving them enough credit. They only just lost to New Zealand. Like, you know, they scored plenty of tries against Australia. The game was just lost there. In South Africa, they pushed them. It's like, you get accused of being too critical, and then like people are like, oh, you're being too harsh on them, given how good the other teams were. And then no one's supposed to go to Ireland and win. Like, it's one of the hardest places to go to. And the first half, they played arguably one of the best halves I've seen them play for a very long time, half rugby, probably since New Zealand tour, maybe even since they played Ireland last year. So you try and be positive about it and see the good things that England did. And you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't, Coley. Like, you're either too negative or too positives. At the end of the day, I will always share my thoughts on the game and where the game was won and lost. Try and make it explain to people where the game was won and lost. And at the weekend, like, we're not too close to the team. I have a very informed view on things. And yeah, I would say that England didn't score 2 lucky tries. I'd say the last one, not necessarily luckily, but that, you know, they took it. But I'd say that one perhaps. But certainly the one before that, no, with the Curry one, that was well worked. And that was no more lucky than James Lowe shrugging off Mitch and giving it inside to Gibson Park. Like, no more lucky than that. It was no more lucky, to be fair, than Bundyaki giving it on the short side and running over 2 players. Like, because on another day, those 2 guys make that hit. On another day, they're not in that position because Caelan Murdy doesn't kick it 5 metres out. Like, so...
One thing I would say is that analyse it properly, is the person said. And it's actually like, we are actually analysing the game and trying to explain why England and Ireland do things they do, rather than just offering an opinion on it, rather than going, oh, I think England should have won. I think they should have passed it more and scored in the corner. Like, anyone can do that. We're actually trying to offer a informed, I guess it's an opinion, but an informed version of events that people can see and realise why England did what they did in the first half and maybe went away from the second half and what the game plan was and tactics were, rather than just sort of going, you know, oh, I think this, I think that, I'd have picked him, I'd have done this, because actually anyone can do that. And there's enough of that. It's actually left on an opinion. And you say we're close to, he says close to the team. It's like that probably actually allows us to be a bit more subjective in regards to, we're not just offering an opinion, you actually, or sorry, objective rather than subjective, and going like, this is what we think or this is what we know they're trying to do, rather than this is what we want them to do. So yeah, as you say as well, like, people have opinions, and some people, I reckon the vast majority of people sit in the middle who just want to be informed about the game. There's people who leave comments on certain things and the other, and like social media, 5% at one end, 5% the other, but there's 9% in the middle who just want to enjoy rugby, learn a bit more about the game and get on with it. So yeah, that's my thoughts.
Yeah, absolutely. And I thought we highlighted Coley, like, it was a 15-minute spell. Like, England had brought Ireland into an arm wrestle, and England were in a good position, but ultimately they drop a high ball, comes off Caden's hand, he runs out. We actually get away with that. We end up then we eventually concede, but we end up giving away a penalty for pushing Matt Hansen in the back. We give a penalty away at the line out that then leads to that kick. You then, like, Chandler Cunningham himself gives away a penalty because the kick's a little bit too long. Like, there's accumulation of unneeded errors within that 15 minutes that allowed Ireland to take control of the game. Now, if England eradicated two of those things, whether there was a one where Caden doesn't drop the ball over the line, for instance, like, there's accumulation of a 15-minute spell where England are rattled and they back error upon error. If they got rid of two of those or didn't go back to back, like, Ireland maybe wouldn't have taken control of the game like they did. Now they did, and full credit to them. And I think we were very, we gave them credit, with their 4-man arrow and the awareness and smarts that they come with, and especially, as you said, Coley, saving it for the second half to do a move like that. You play your hand early in that, like, teams spot it and adjust. They almost run that late on. We praise them for, the 5-man line out coming back and the move with James Lowe. Very, very smart. But yeah, ultimately, I think we're not too I don't want to go mad about it, but if the listener listens to us in the autumn, Coley, they're in for a good episode where we basically debate where England are really at. So yeah, there we go.
The more you look at the game, and I say, even like looking back at it today in bits and bobs, it's like the Matt Hansen pushing the back. Sometimes that's goes the other way for running a block. There's one with a line out. There's two at the line out. There's like England get done for closing the gap, but basically they've stole Ireland's ball, Ireland thrown it to them, and Ireland closed their own gap. And I think Marrow gets done for a push in the line out, which happens every line out. And there's just...
Mate, Marrow doesn't even touch him. He hardly touches him.
Exactly. But then they're at disadvantage there, and England steal that line out, and next to the momentum, yeah, well, say England, the line out, they still think Ches steals it. It's like, you have momentum there, you then put Ireland back under pressure in their half, but because it ends up being a free kick, Ireland get momentum, they put the ball in your half. So it's all, there's a lot of shifts in the game, and it's about the capitalising on those, the shifts in the momentum, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, like, it's the stuff that's the unseen stuff that gets sort of commented on. You can just go around saying, oh, rubbish. And as we said before, it's like with England, like, I'm an England fan. Yes, I'm biased to play for England. Like, I want England to win, but like, I don't expect every game England to just beat everyone. You know what I mean? And we'll just roll over and give in to the English and all that kind of stuff. So that's my opinion. Anyway.
Right, we've got a question from Peter Doyle on YouTube. Lads, you really struggle to give Ireland any credit. If you lose next week and are 0 from 2 games, are you still going to say England are great and be proud of them? Well, we're not 0 because we've got 1 point. We've got a losing bonus point, actually, Peter. So let me correct you there, sir. Coley, thoughts on that?
I don't think we struggled to give Ireland credit. I think we gave them credit for their moves. As we said, the smart thoughts. We've made our comments about the game. England are going to say England are great if you're proud they lose next week. Well, losing to the French, especially the team they are, there's no shame in losing. You know what I mean? It's like if England perform, and yes, I'd love them to win, but if they perform and go out there and throw the kitchen sink at them and tactically smart and play the way and sort of make the game more in England's favour, I'd say right at the minute, the way I, in my head, look at things, I'm like, France are going to be brilliant, right? And they're going to be here. England are going to be here. So what can England do to make it more of a arm wrestle in the middle? Stop offloading, stop all this kind of stuff, stop the big runners, stop Dupont. And right, if England can get it into an arm wrestle, then the game can go either way. And, England can make the game played on their terms. Because if we're going to play sevens, France will win. But if you're going to make it an England arm wrestle game and then the game loses on by 3, it's a one-score game, then yeah, of course you can still be proud of England because you've gone against the best team in the world and given it your all. Like, you can't, the effort's there, tactical's there. Sometimes you lose these games, and that's my opinion on things. You know what I mean? And so there's no shame in losing to the French, and I'm more interested in sort of the performance in some regards and the actual what England do and how they try and drag the French, or how they take on the French. They might not. They might want to play sevens against them, but how they make this best team in the world. How do England find an advantage? How do they make France play left-handed? That kind of stuff. That's what I'm interested in. And if they lose, they lose. It'd be gutting, but you can't just expect to win every game and not be proud of the lads because you lost.
We're England players or ex-England players. I am. We want England to win. We're always going to see it through an English eyes. Of course we are. But I would correct Peter and say that we never said England are great, Peter. But we did say, or I said, I was proud of them. I was proud of their first half performance, I said, because Ireland did chuck the kitchen sink at them a few times. And England repelled them. And England hang in there. England had a man in the sin bin at one point. So, yes, I was proud of their first half efforts because as I said earlier, I think their first half was as good as I've seen them for a long, long time. And given the sort of 12 months prior, we haven't sort of seen necessarily that level of intensity from England. So in the first half, as I said, I was proud of them. But I shall correct you, Peter, and say I never said they were great.
I have a question from Ben. Do team sheets being released early affect game preparation? And why aren't they all just released a day before?
It's a really good question, Ben, actually. And I actually got a message from Dick and Bess the other day asking me exactly the same question. So shout out to DB. And he said, is it advantage for teams as well? So he had the same question. And I would say England traditionally have always named it on a Thursday. Now, recently they've been naming it, or certainly in the autumn, they've been naming it on Tuesdays. And I don't know whether that's because inside the camp, as players, sometimes you didn't know until Thursday if you were playing or not. And it's easier to know nice and early, right, I'm starting or I'm finishing or I'm not involved. And you know your role within that week. So sometimes it's nice to know early. They go public with it, obviously, on a Tuesday. Lately, England have.
Sorry, I would interject. I'd say I think the England team gets released on a Tuesday because the English media will leak it on the Tuesday night or Wednesday, whether they find out through agents, their sources, through trading, whatever. And I think England just kind of go, look, to stop the media leaking it, they have to announce it then. Ideally, I think England would announce it whenever the limit is, whether 48 hours before kickoff or 10 a.m. Thursday like most teams do. But there's obviously a reason they do it Tuesday, and it probably just gets out of the way instead of having have to speculate it till the Thursday. So that would be my point. But yes, sorry, carrying on about the actual, is there an advantage to knowing the opposition team early?
Yeah, is there an advantage to it? I would say no, because by Monday, Tuesday, you've done the majority of your prep. You have formulated a game plan, which is often presented to you by Sunday evening. Monday, you sort of walk through, install it, have a look at certain aspects of the game, some key aspects that you want to either nullify them and also impose your game plan on them. So you're looking at both aspects of that. Tuesday, you then put that to the test by moving through it very, very quickly, high speed, high intensity, physical contact work. And you almost test that plan of trying to stop the guys who aren't playing. And they're sort of almost trying to run as the French, for instance. And you're trying to impose what you're trying to do. So trying to nullify them and impose what you want to do. So I would say not necessarily no. I guess the only thing is if there's a glaring person missing, a mission from the weekend, then that's probably a bit of an advantage because it might give them a psychological boost. If a really key player, for instance, if Anton Dupont wasn't to be playing, psychologically, leading to the game, you'd be like, oh, that's a massive loss for them. And it might give you a bit of a, we're still a couple of few days out, and you might be able to do something tactically quickly on the Thursday.
I think there is an advantage knowing the opposition team early, maybe on say if you found out late Tuesday, only because it would give you could maybe think how they're going to play. If they picked, say, a massive front five, and you go, all right, they're going to brawl, or they're going to do that, or they've picked, say, a bit like with the England team, say maybe knowing that they haven't picked a back row that's a line-out option, you know what I mean? So they kind of go, oh, actually, maybe England are going to play more 4 or 5 men line-outs. It would give you potentially a heads up, and they're going to come at our breakdown. But I don't think you're going to go, oh, if you look at, say, the England team, go, oh, you know they're going to come out of the breakdown no matter who's playing. So it's probably not going to go, it's not going to change the thing there. It might just give you a small heads up on how they're going to attack, but then it doesn't really matter how, because they might, you know what I mean? You might have to second outguess yourself and go, oh, yeah, maybe they're going to throw 4-man, 5-man, so they can come with a 7-man, or, you know what I mean? So I guess there's probably a small advantage in knowing. But you find the opposition, like you find the 10 is different, or there's an injury, or you're wondering what selection is, you might find, or they picked a massive inside centre, he's always going to carry it. Like, might give you a little heads up, but you probably, as you say, prep for that in the week anyway. And you can also outthink yourself and think, oh my God, they're going to come right up the guts of us, and they move it wide in the first play, and you're like, oh shit. Like, we've had it many times, haven't we? Coaches are like, yeah, this team, they're going to, do you remember playing Treviso? It was in Leicester, we played Treviso in Europe, and it was like, they maul everything. 99% they could think of them all. So we went all week beating each other up, and they went off the top every line out. And it was just like...
So it doesn't always work, does it? It doesn't always work. I tell you, who's the master at knowing who the opposition team was going to be was Eddie. Like, every time, I swear, he'd come on like a Monday and be like, oh, mate, he's going to be playing at 12, or they're going to put the young fella on the wing, or we'll isolate him. And like, I'm like, how? And then every time it'd be announced, and it would be the case. He must have had just intel everywhere, but he just seemed to have always know like if there was going to be any changes in the opposition you were going to be playing. It was mental how he always knew that.
Right, we've got a question from Arwen. What did you see that was promising from Wales, especially after Ben's assassination of their attacking shape? Was there anything good that you saw out of that game?
There was good bits I saw out of the game. No, definitely there was good bits. I said this on the review of it, Coley, didn't we? And we said, like, you know, conceding 40 odd. It's hard to say that their defence looked better, because that's crazy. You scored, but it did. And the same with England. I said the same with England. Like, defensively, when you compare it to the Blitz in the autumn, I was more confident watching it that we weren't going to be broke down so easy. Now, England still were at times broke down too easily. But it was better. It was more consistent. And I'd say Wales, the big thing for Wales is they're lacking power. Like, losing Faletau just before the tournament is a big loss, because he gets through so much work with carrying the ball, his ability to distribute, like, you know, in terms of when I talked about their pod systems and their arrows and their formations, like Faletau can like distribute play out the back of that tip and all these bits, because they haven't necessarily got the size. They've got to be almost tighter in their shape and create little one-on-ones with these short passing games. But Faletau is someone that can actually get over their gain line and a bit of a talisman figure for them. So they're missing that punch. But did I see improvement from Wales? I did. I just found the attack so incredibly predictable that when playing against a big physical team like a France and other nations, I don't see how it can be broken down playing that type, because it's just they haven't got the punch. So therefore, they've got to start moving it more and getting it out of these pods and changing the point of attack. But yeah, it's hard, isn't it? Because Welsh rugby at the moment is being dragged through the mud a bit, isn't it? And there is positives.
I do think they created opportunities.
They did.
But I will say, it's a bit like the first attack of the game. I think the first attack, they basically attack, and the 10, they've played a few phases. I think the 10 actually does a nice job. He's going to kick it in behind, and he goes to kick it into we're talking about the 40 metre line, and he goes to roll it in behind into the French to the 22 into the left-hand corner. But it gets deflected. I think Ramos picks it up and then kicks a 50-22. And there's bits like that. And there's another where I think they've got an overlap, and Nick Tompkins DuPont comes and spots him out the back of the line.
Yes.
Nick Tompkins drops it, they hack it through, and the French 6 sprints past everyone and just knocks it on the goal line. So there's probably opportunities. I know they're still 60 metres out from the goal line. I think they are creating stuff. It's just that you play against like the French, and you play against like your DuPont, who's best player in the world, who makes reads like that in D, or, you know, Ramos, a sort of fluky deflection gives it to Ramos, who then boots it 80 metres downfield or kicks a 50-22, and you kind of like, you forget those kind of bits. So they create opportunities, but again, as you say, against best teams in the world, A, they work it out, and B, they punish you for your mistakes, and that 50-22 I think became a try and that kind of stuff. So it's all, and then you're playing from behind, and the French just sit there and absorb it, and against a different team, you probably actually, the Welsh should improve from the autumn, put it that way. They look more organised, more structured, and I'm sure they'll be happy and they can build on that. So there is positives. And I just think sometimes they came against like some of the best players in the world who, if they made an error, punish them. Whereas on a different day, probably might get a different result.
Yeah, they've improved since the autumn. Although they conceded 40, the defence looked more consistent. The issue was the game was done at half time. It was done before the break. They haven't got the punch. They miss guys like Faletau to give them some dent. And their current shape against bigger teams, because they don't have the dent, it becomes very, you carry into a brick wall. They all slow it down. The next lot get teed up. So you can't generate that speed of ball to kind of manipulate it within that shape. So, but, it's tough for Wales because they are where they are. But they're not, I agree with you, Colin. Like they look better. What I saw on Friday, was better than what I saw from them in the autumn. So obviously, for those that aren't lucky enough to get a ticket for the weekend, and you'll be watching the game on your couch with some snacks, and you want something to wash it down with, well, we've got a little competition going against Marla, and it's basically, can we shift or sell more carts than he can punk IPAs, courtesy of Brewdog?
Yeah. Well, there's a weekend of rugby coming up, and I can't think of a better drink to sit there supping on than Black Heart. So people should just go out, buy it, drink it over the weekend, enjoying the games, and at the same time, hopefully get Marla a hair transplant.
And that is the key, because if we win, we can get Marla a hair transplant. Although, like I said, he only actually needs a patch down the middle, really, that we can get that. So if you want to do that and you want to help us win this comp, you can get 12 cans of Black Heart for £15 using the code FTLOR, and the link is in our episode description. We've got a question from Gemma via the Google form. Which player had the ability to psychologically get under your skin the most in your career?
Good question. I don't think there's any off the top of my head. Only ones I can really think of were wingers mainly. I don't know why, but like Ashley used to annoy me a bit. Josh Bassett used to play at Wasps, he used to kind of annoy me a bit. Probably Josh Adams, who was at Worcester, wasn't he? It's just blokes, the wingers, that basically come in and chirps and give it the big one. Mike Brown, when he used to play at Quins. My thing with wingers is they do fuck all in the game, stand in the backfield, then there's like a flare up and they come in and like push you around. It's like, mate, if you were tough, you'd be playing in the pack, so fuck off. Unless that's like Nemani Nadolo or something like that, where they're much bigger than you.
Just squash the entire pack.
Yeah. But they didn't really get under my skin because it was like, I'm not going to come across you in the game. And if you do, you're just going to run around me. So therefore, like, there's no point wasting my energy getting wound up on some bloke that I'm not going to see ever again in this game or ever off the field.
To be fair, Coley, you and Bigger used to have some proper good good goes at each other.
Oh, yeah. But I think he has to go at everyone. And he probably gave me no credit.
Yeah, he does.
You'd be like, who did you have a tussle with? And he'd like probably wouldn't even mention me. So I'm not going to mention him. But I'm going to say that I'm going to sue him for what he said about me in his book. So he makes out that me and, right, just anyone that hasn't read his book, me and Marlon makes out to be like the biggest saps on the Lions tour, when he Bigger was himself one of the top three. If me and Marlon 1 and 2, he was 3 of the biggest saps, but he makes out that he's just like, yeah, no, I just played it off. So I know the truth.
The only one I would say, but it was more that I enjoyed playing against him, but now he's retired, was Marla, to be fair. That's because we're mates, and he would just be a pain in the arse, like talking shit, but we'd actually have a funny time doing it. So actually, I missed that. But he didn't get under my skin. It was just more like I'd be standing like, I don't know, near a mall, and then suddenly someone would stand on my foot, and it'd be him. Like if I happened to be in the bottom of a ruck, he'd be like, make sure he's in there, like knee dropping me. It's just generally been a pain in the arse, to be fair.
We've got a question from Harriet on Facebook. Has the race for the 7 jersey for Lions ever been so competitive? Can you take Jack Morgan, Tom Curry, Josh van der Fleer and Rory Darge? That's for you throwing Sam Underhill and Jack Willis. And Tommy Raffel, obviously.
And Tommy Raffel. It is so competitive. And you could chuck in Ben Earl if you wanted to play him at 7 as well, to be fair. I mean, it's a nice headache to have. I'm not going to put myself out there and start naming who I take because I think they're all outstanding players. Like, it is a hell of a headache. That back row in general, when you start looking across the board of who you take, I think that if you're going to have Doris at 8, which I suspect they will, and I suspect that he's probably going to be the captain, then you could, in theory, play, 2 7s together, one at 6, one at 7, and play any of those guys together. So it'll be very interesting to see who they go with. But, all those guys are outstanding at the weekend. And like you say, that's not even to mention Underhill, who's currently injured. That's not to mention Jack Willis, who's tearing down trees in Toulouse and has done for a while. And I'm sure we're probably forgetting someone else as well. But what a luxury, mate. What a luxury.
Certainly that. And it's certainly going to be interesting. Good news is, Ben, I'm going to throw a link out to our live show in London, that we're going to pick our Lions teams, aren't we? And I think 7, tactically might leave it to the last pick because you're going to get a good one because there's so many good ones out there. So yeah, just throw that out there.
That is smart. We're at the Clapham Grand and you can come and see us. But the one thing is, Coley, in that position, there is going to be some outstanding back rowers that don't make the plane. And it's no reflection on them. It is just like the back row looks incredibly competitive. Who would you have, Harriet? Who would you pick?
We've got a question from Craig. Tom Jordan looked electric when he came on for Scotland. Can he be the heir to the injured Sione Tuipulotu, or will Scotland have too many playmakers with Kinghorn and Russell? Ben, your thoughts, please.
Oh, this guy's very, very good. I mean, Ant Watson spoke about him in our preview episode and how excited he is by this guy. And he delivered again at the weekend when he come on. So, would they have too many playmakers? No, they wouldn't. Because the way that Scotland like to play, no, because they use that distribution to get to the wider channels and get to the likes of Dewey van der Merwe, get it to Darcy Graham as well. So, like, the more width they play with the ball. So, no, it wouldn't be a case that there'd be too many playmakers on the field at all. And, Blair Kinghorn as well, like he can distribute, but he can carry. Like, he's a big lump, Blair. Like, he's, he shifts, he moves well, but him and Dewey van der Merwe are big guys that can carry a ball. So they wouldn't be too many playmakers. And actually it's as we just mentioned about the back row, and a nice headache to have, and it's difficult. It's a bit like that with Scotland, but how nice to be able to unleash someone like Tom Jordan if they decide to bench him like they did at the weekend. Or go with him at the off. So look, he's an excitable, talented footballer, and Scotland's just seem to keep producing these playmaking players.
Yeah, no, Scotland have do a good job of scouring the globe for talent. Put it that way.
I didn't want to say you. Yes, they are. They're very good at that. As are England at times. We've got a question from Elliot. How does Dan tell the difference between the Curry twins?
Well, Elliot, I look at the initials on their shorts. That's what I do. There is slight differences. Tom has always been I say always, the past couple of years, I haven't seen him recently, slightly, he's got a couple of kilos on Ben. So he's slightly heavier and thicker, or he was. So that's how I kind of tell. But the thing is, the weird thing is, said before, they have the same like mannerisms, the same pout. You look at one of them and he looks at you and then he pouts, and then you look at the other one, he looks at you and he pouts, and it's like the mannerisms are the same. Just it's
so true.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous.
They're as sort of identical as identical people can be. So yeah, but you can't tell the difference. They normally have a different hairstyle as well, so that's good.
We've got another question from Mark this time. If you could go back and change one thing from your Six Nations playing careers, what would it be and why?
Oh, one thing. Probably got quite a few things. I don't know, I'm trying to think. Off the top of my head, what would I change? Well, obviously, the obvious one would probably be like, if I could change a result, I would change maybe the game where Ireland beat us in Ireland when we won the championship, but lost the Grand Slam, and that ended England's streak of however many wins. I'd change that. I might change a couple of other results. If I couldn't change that one, maybe I'd change that game we lost in Scotland in 2017, something like that. Might change that. And the reaction, the fallout from that with this fans and Eddie Jones and that kind of stuff, I'd change that. But no, on the whole, I'd probably keep things same.
To be fair, you know that mental game against France in 2015 where we needed to score X amount of points, and we've spoken about this game a load of times anyway, and we just feel short. I think we needed 5 more points to have won the game. The one thing I just wish we'd have either found another try or just stopped one of their mental tries. But that's probably that game, because it was all on the line. We did some great things and we just didn't have enough on the night. So if I could change one thing, it would be that one, I reckon. And then we'd have won the title that night, which would have been great, because we'd have won it also at Twickenham, because I never won the actual title at Twickenham. It was always away from home that whenever I either won it. So that would have been mega.
That did actually did cross my mind, that game, because I'm pretty sure as well, like, did Stuart Hogg drop the ball over the line, or did someone drop the ball over the line in the game before, like Ireland, Scotland or something like that?
I think something like that.
Which meant that if they'd have scored it, the points difference would have been less, and we'd have ended up potentially
winning,
not needing as many points. So it came down to points difference, something like that. But yeah, probably one of those.
Yeah, I think if I just take a quick snapshot, it's probably that game.
Right, we've got a question from Archie. Are Brex and Menechelo the best centre combo in the tournament or even the world? I'm not saying they're the absolute best individual centres, but as a partnership, you can't really look past them as the best. Both fantastic players.
I'd say they're both fantastic players, and they definitely complement each other. I think that's part of a great centre combination, is you got to complement each other's strengths and weaknesses, and they're definitely that. I wouldn't say they're the best in the world, no. And I wouldn't say they're the best in the tournament, but I would say that they are very good.
Right, so who is your best in the tournament?
It's hard to look past Ireland's centre combination, which is, of course, the weekend was Aki and Ringrose. It's also, if Tuipulotu was fit, it's hard to look past him and Hugh Jones, but he's obviously not. So for this tournament, you'd have to say probably the Irish combination. You'd also look at the French, with Mofana in there, but then you think also, of course, Dante would be there if he was fit. So if I was to go snapshot right now, Carly, I'd say the Irish pairing are the best centres in the best centres in the comp. But yeah, I think, like I say, Brex and Menechelo complement each other, but they also play the system very well for how Italy want them to play. So they are very good, but I wouldn't say they're the best in the comp. I'd say the Irish boys are.
I'd agree, but they're probably the most settled combo, aren't they?
Yeah,
because even Ireland kind of go Aki Ringrose, Aki Henshaw. Say Scotland's sort of settled as well, but like France rotate centres, Wales have rotated, England's supposed to got Lawrence and Slade, which have been first. Hasn't been that settled, has it? It's only been a year they've played together, so yeah. Brex and Menechelo are probably the best in terms of how they complement each other the most in some regards. This episode is brought to you by Thriver. If you go to their website, in the episode description, you can get 20% off your first blood test if you use the code LOVEOFRUGBY. All capital letters, all one word.
Now, Coley, given the fact that we're no longer on England duty and the Six Nations is started, we can actually focus on almost like a mini pre-season, like a little health kick to get ourselves back in peak physical condition for the run-in, bud.
Well, you say get back in peak physical condition. Some of us are in peak physical condition, Ben. I've been recruited to help get you back. There's like an over 35s club, which is like you and me. And yeah, I don't need to be in it, but I'm in it to keep you company, basically. So yeah, I've been shuttling up and down the fields together in the frost and there's not snow at the minute, but yeah, in the cold air where all these youngsters are running about. The two old men are putting in the graft.
We are putting in the graft, to be fair. And I'll tell the listeners, you're having a bit of a 5 metre head start at the moment, aren't you, on me? You are getting a little bit of extra meterage in front of me, but I'm at the moment, you'll be pleased to know I'm reining you in. I'm reining you in.
Yeah, but there's no shame in me having a 5 metre head start. The shame for you is it's not a bigger, like, it looks worse for you that you're only 5 metres behind me, considering we're travelling 200 metres probably minimum in the shuttles. So that 5 metres, it's not much. If it was like 5 meters over a 10-meter course, a bit different, but it's definitely a really long course we're running, mate. So
all jokes aside, though, as we come towards the latter end of our careers, Coley, I do want to stay pretty conscious about my health. And the listeners may remember we did a little Thriver blood test on the pod a few weeks ago now.
Yes, Ben, we did a blood test. Basically, we had to go on the Thriver app and we filled in a 5-minute questionnaire about our lifestyles, and it recommended some tests that we could do to help maximise our performance and our general health. And we stuck to them, and we did the kits. We did the tests live on the podcast, didn't we?
We did. Being a THB, I didn't think it would even hurt at all, and it turns out it didn't. I didn't feel a thing, mate.
No, well, yeah, I didn't feel anything either. So I'm obviously also a THB. But I've had my results on the Thriver app. Have you had yours?
I did get my results, mate. And it's incredibly easy and efficient how quickly, one, it comes, and two, to understand it. Because with you get your full report, and essentially everything you click on, it gives you a breakdown. So if I take creatine, for instance, and I click on that and it says understand your results, it'll give you a full debrief of that and where it sits, why, what is creatine, what is its function, what causes high creatine, what causes low creatine. Like everything is so explainable. Like it's honestly, it was very impressive actually, to be fair. Liver blood test, I've got no end, to be fair. Alkaline, total protein, obviously huge. Some words that I can't actually pronounce, to be fair, but I can just click on it and understand more about it. Cholesterol, we won't be talking about that. But essentially, Coley, you get a full report, and they deliver it in a very simple and fast way. And the doctor on the Thriver app let me know, because my kidney function was a little bit low, but he reassured me that all is okay and was to be expected because of, when we talked about diet and what we do for a living. He reassured me. But he did tell me, Coley, that I should start taking some more omega-3s and begin taking a little bit more creatine, and also take ferritin, which is basically an iron supplement. So what about yourself, mate? How'd you get on?
Yeah, no, my results were normal. I have optimal for diabetes, which is good.
Sorry, is that optimal as in like you're going to get it?
No, optimal as in I'm not going to get it, and my blood sugar levels and my active B12, my HbA1c is optimal, and that is, if I click on it, my HbA1c, I can find out all about the result. It's less than 42. You'll be reassured that it's a normal result. It's very important to keep your weight in a normal range. So yeah, which is good, and I can find out what it is. HbA1c refers to the glycated hemoglobin, how much glucose is attached to hemoglobin, a protein found in red blood cells. So there you go. So that's it. It makes it all simple. The only thing I had slightly off was cholesterol. My LDL is apparently higher than it potentially should be, but the HDL is normal. So yeah, I actually was not worried about this, but I had a thought about it. So I went to the club doctor, and I basically learned some bit about cholesterol and how basically LDL is seen as bad because it transports cholesterol from the liver to the arteries, whereas the HDL is good because it takes cholesterol away from the arteries to the liver where it can be processed. But basically, yeah, no, he reassured me that it did sort of blood pressure and all that is the same, and actually, yeah, it's not a bad thing. And there's a whole world of thought about cholesterol, whether it's good, bad, all the rest. It's also needed for hormonal function and stuff. It's quite interesting. Actually, we had a great debate about it. Not debate, we had a great discussion about it. And I learned a lot. But I'm glad I got my tests because, yeah, it just helps reassure that, sometimes I think or we are searching for performance in our field, aren't we, in rugby, and also like general well-being and stuff. And you kind of like, sometimes you think, oh, I don't feel maximal today. And then you have your tests and you're like, actually, you're normal. And because it's quite easy to go on the internet and go like, oh my God, I'm tired. I must have, and there's 3,000 different things you're apparently lacking in or got too much of. And, if you just do the internet search, whereas actually having a blood test reassures you that, no, actually, you're pretty fit and healthy. You can make a tweak here or there, which I will do, incorporate to my diet. But it's actually good to get the result that's reassuring what you can do and where you can make tweaks.
I agree, mate, because like nowadays on social media, on the internet, there's so many influencers, like there's so many fads and like trying to tell you with trends and things like that. But for Ivor, to be fair, help me cut through the noise and just give me some really great insights into what's actually happening inside my body, and also break it down for me to make it really understandable of what I need to do, where I'm at, what needs to change, and how I'm faring. And that's all we wanted, because we said, Colty, we want to get a little bit more of a grip about our health as we get a little bit older.
And if the listeners or viewers would like to make a more informed choice about their lifestyle, give Thriver a go. You can use the link in our episode description and use the code LOVEOFRUGBY to get 20% off your first blood test.
That is correct, Coley. So the listeners or viewers, you can get 20% off your first blood test by using the code LOVEOFRUGBY. Now, we've got a question from Grace on Instagram. Why are more teams taking tap and go penalties rather than kicking for touch or taking the points?
Right, Grace. The reason teams are taking more tap and go penalties is because it gets you close to the goal line. And the game is pretty much, once you get to the goal line, you're into a pick and go, or you can pull out the back and score. If you kick for the corner, you got to kick it there, which sometimes if you're in the middle of the field means that you end up further away sometimes than near it, or the risk of kicking it dead. Also, you got to win the line out. You've got to maul the team, whereas in actual fact, you've got all those different things to do where you could just tap and run it. And by the time they've got off the goal line, even if you're at equal pace, you're 2.5 meters from the goal line, aren't you? So that's why. In kicking for points, teams still kick for points, just situational, I think, and how teams do it. Other teams sort of probably, if you've got momentum, there's probably a train of thought saying if you've got momentum and you're 5 meters out from the goal line, try and score a try, because you'll probably get penalty advantage. You can come back for a kick or something like that rather than just taking the kick. But lots of teams have kicked, 5 meters out, they kick the penalty goal, haven't they? So it hasn't replaced a penalty goal, but it's just teams, I think in the bonus point era, trying to score tries. That's probably one of the reasons why they do it.
Yeah, and I think you say, Coley, almost the line out it's the least risky play, because the time, like quite often they use the hooker to tap and charge forward. By the time he does that, the time he's brought down, he's often one time like 1 meter away. And then some teams have lovely little trick plays in the way they do it. But who'd have thought it, Because tap plays back in the day were like huge. You just put a wall out, didn't they? Tap it, everyone have their back turns, and they do all these wraparounds. Mate. The wall, exactly. And now you're looking at it, and like tap plays are back. And they've been back for a couple of years. And I like some of the moves that you do see, certainly at club level or in European comp, URC, wherever you look, there's some cracking ones. So look, Ireland obviously did one at the weekend, but they were holding on to Mario Toji's foot, so he wasn't able to fill the gap. So, but teams definitely do that, and it's a way of getting so close. And actually, Coley, it's worth mentioning the way that you have to defend as well. You obviously your hands on the floor defensively, you can easily get another advantage. It's a quick way of almost accumulating penalties, which may lead to a sin bin, but your chance of converting and scoring on the back of a tap is actually very high.
That is true. Right, we've got a question from Aidan. Do players sledge each other in the tunnel before walkout?
No. The Aussies used to be a little bit, didn't they? Like they used to they just chatted shit, to be fair, in the tunnel. They'd be sort of like trying to rev themselves up, and a few of them would be chatting shit, but not really to us, just more like what type of game it's going to be.
Yeah, no, I don't remember any. To be honest, I can't remember any from the Australians, but no, I don't remember any. I remember there's one, the tunnel standoff, England-Wales, but that wasn't at Wales. It was more about just not being left on the pitch for 10 minutes while they came out. So no, there's no real banter in between the teams in the tunnel.
We got a question from Kate. My boyfriend watched his first Six Nations game this weekend, and all of his questions were about why certain players were wearing hats. I couldn't give him an answer, so I'm asking you. Is
he talking about Eddie Jones's hat?
Yeah, he must be confused about Eddie's hat that kept getting higher and higher throughout the game.
It was just one hat, but he thought it was many. I basically, Katie, I'm guessing you're referring to the scrum cap that players wear rather than the bobble hat they wear on the bench to keep their head warm. Scrum caps. Why do people wear them? People wear them for different reasons. I think there is a some people wear him for potential concussion issues / thoughts. I think a lot of the time, basically, people wear them so they don't get cauliflower ears, or if you get hit on the head, you don't get sort of two split open and stuff like that. But I think there is a couple of scrum caps come out recently which are sort of designed to reduce the risk of concussions, I think, but don't quote me on that. But that's what I think.
Got a question from Tim. During November, people said England's bench was too old when it features players like George Ford and Dan Cole. On Saturday, everyone was banging on about how experienced Ireland's bench was. Does this annoy Coley?
No, Tim, doesn't annoy me. But probably links us back to the start of the episode, Ben, where you basically, in some regards, you can't do wrong from right. Whereas if England lose with an old bench, it's the old bench's fault. But if England win, say if the bench comes on and a team wins, then it's like, oh, the bench have added valuable experience. But if they come on and lose, the old bench, it's like, oh, they're just past it and they just racking up caps and they're crap. Similar with like a young bench is like, if England or if this young bench comes on the field and ups the energy and scores, it's like, oh my God, that's so enthusiastic. But if they come onto the field and lose, it's like, oh, they're just so inexperienced. So it's just people's perception. Pick your best players. Obviously you can put people on the bench to get experience, test exposure, but you pick your best players to win test matches. I don't think you sort of, you don't pick teams based on, yes, caps come into experience and that kind of stuff, but you don't pick a team going, oh, I'm going to have a really old bench or a really young team. You just pick the best players for that situation, that game. Yeah,
you do. I'll tell you one thing that does annoy me though, is Steve does keep saying after games, they've got more caps, experience, everything like that. And I would say you do have a choice. He does select the team. He can decide how much experience he chooses to have on there or not.
But I think it shows you how much he does sort of value experience as a coach. We know that from being in the team, and how much he sort of, I think, is trying to get experience into this current England team. Because if you think about it, every tournament, say the autumn, you play 4 games, 23 players, that's whatever that top of my head is. It's sort of 92 caps or something, isn't it? So it's you get in sort of 100 capper with every tournament worth of experience across the squad. So yeah, I think England has just got to accelerate that experience process, and you got to do that by playing players, which is what they're doing.
Right, last question, Coley. What is it?
Well, Ben, it's a question from Lewis. I think it's a very interesting question, this. The question is about the Leicester-Northampton game, the recent game. How did Ben not score when he got the ball 10 metres out and no one within 20 metres of him?
Oh, that sounds harsh, Lewis. Because it wasn't 10 metres out. It was actually at least 25. And there was at least 3 players around me. But you were celebrating on the halfway line, Coley. You just stood there and watched it unfold from a distance. My recollection was I got the ball back on the inside and I'm running to the try line. Northampton player coming across on my left. I looked right where the ball came from. Didn't see anyone coming. Joe Woodward was screaming at me and I thought he was sort of celebrating. And I looked left and Northampton players coming across there. So I sort of cruise. I sort of do slow up and sort of go on the outside arc to score sort of towards the corner. And then I got absolutely blindsided by someone on the right-hand side who, to be fair, cut me in half. Great tackle. And, I respect that determination and desire from that young winger flying in and halving me. And I spilt the ball over the line, but no biggie. I was all right. I was on to the next thing.
Yeah, you said you chose to slow down. Reports are your speed endurance isn't what it used to be, Ben. And
I can assure the listeners,
25-metre jog in.
I was running considerably quicker than I was for my try against Exeter. But I did get the ball.
But it was further out than Exeter, wasn't it?
It was further out, and I did get it. And I did I glanced right and I didn't see anyone. I looked left. Northampton guy was coming across. I went to cruise in and score and got completely blindsided on the right-hand side. So, yeah, I mean, there you are, Lewis. Don't really know what to say, mate, but we won, so all is forgiven. I'll get over it. So should you.
Right, that brings the end of the show, Ben. Ellis Genge is going to be at our Bristol live show, and it's the 23rd of April. We accidentally said I'll show you the day. It was 23rd of May, but it's not 23rd of May. It's the 23rd of April. Tickets are still available. The link is in the episode description. Or in our bio on Instagram as well, apparently.
Oh, and Coley, good news. Our Leicester show, you know when they asked, do we want to add more capacity? And we were like, yeah. And we didn't realise we were going to add like another 500 seats. But we're actually 92% now sold out for that. So I think we've got like 1,400 or 1,500. We're 92% there. So we look forward to seeing you there, everyone. Oh, and if you want to ask us a question for next week, Six Nations Q&A, use the form in the episode description.
Thank you to Brewdog, because every nation needs a black heart.
And thanks to Sage for your insights.
And Anthony Watson is back on Friday to preview round 2.